How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Supporters Club. I did tell you guys I'll be bringing you this every week, once a week, whilst the World Cup is on, and I've switched up the panel slightly. We've got Julian back again as well. Big up Julian. Stricto's in the building, and James.
I'm back. It's been a while since I've been on this.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah, it has been. But I think it makes sense.
Yeah, well, why not? It's been, well, everyone else is away watching the World Cup. So,
yeah,
it's good to be here. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Good, good. To be honest, it's going to be a World Cup orientated show. Obviously, we're going to focus on Arsenal's players. But a few things have got me thinking during the World Cup, and I'm going to go into them shortly. But first things first, Saka starts for England, 2 goals, man of the match. A complete turnaround to how the Euros ended for him last summer. In terms of the tournament itself last year, he was one of the stars for England in that tournament, but the way it ended with the missed penalty and the abuse, and more importantly, the racial abuse after, for him to then pick up the English men's team player of the year and then pick up the man of the match in his first World Cup appearance with 2 goals. I believe the youngest player for England to score 2 goals, especially at a major tournament. Let's start with Saka, and let's start with you, Stricto. Obviously, Saka got the Nigerian heritage.
Yes.
He's playing for England, so I think it's only right to start with the Niger man.
Mentality monster. That's what that kid is.
Yeah.
You touched on the end of the Euros, racially abused, missed a pen, instantly comes back and start taking pens for Arsenal.
Yeah, can't forget that as well, yeah.
He's our main penalty taker now. And just to think the guy missed a pen and all that he went through, just shows you how much of a mentality. You always hear that mentality monster get banded around, but he's a true meaning of it. He hasn't let any of that stop him. He's having a great season with us so far. He's very effective. As far as I'm concerned, I put on my Twitter the other day, I think if he carries on how he's going, I can't see why he can't win a Ballon d'Or. He's doing what everyone else who wins a Ballon d'Or does. He's consistent. You know, he scores goals. He's like I said, he's effective. Look.
Haaland or Mbappe might have something to say about that.
I mean, obviously those two are separate. But if you think, who else has won the Ballon d'Or outside of Ronaldo and Messi?
Modric.
Right. So you could,
Benzema, Lewandowski deserve one.
He could fall into that, other than those two kind of categories.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Which is not too bad to fall into.
Yeah, exactly. It's not too bad. And look, I think he's proven that he's a true professional. You know, you're going to have your ups, you're going to have your downs, but how you respond to it, that's what makes a difference.
Both beautiful finishes as well, James. I mean, the first one, especially the way he took that top corner, I think it glanced in off the bar. Thoughts on Saka?
Yes, someone made a good point. It wasn't so similar, but there were shades of that Wolves goal in lockdown. Remember he scored?
Not much time to hit it.
Someone made that point on Twitter. It was just a kind of instinctive wrap your foot around it and that clean kind of connection with the laces. You know what? I'm so happy for him because I had a feeling he'd start for England. I think Southgate really likes him. I think one thing Southgate, you can see in the players he picks, he appreciates hard work as well and sort of the right attitude to a game, the right sort of approach. You talked about mentality. And on that topic of mentality with Saka as well, and we touched on this, I think, on Forever Arsenal, but every level he's been asked to step up to, he always has. Yes. So, when he came in, it was, well, are you doing well because the team's languishing in 8th and, they're not really that great. But no, he steps up and he's one of our best players. We're chasing the top 4. Can you still be one of our key players, gets, a penalty against, Stamford Bridge, wins us the game and has those big moments in that. And now he's looking a star player in a team that are having one of the greatest starts in Premier League history in a title race. And that, it's just shown that whenever he's been asked to go up a level, same at the Euros, same now at the World Cup, he's been doing it. So you start to question, well, you threw the word Ballon d'Or out there. That feels too much for me, but then when has he ever let us down whenever we've asked him to go to that next level? So who knows where his ceiling is, but as Arsenal fans, we can be immensely proud of him.
Still very young as well. Julian, I saw you on the watch-along for the England game. Over the moon, obviously, with the result and Saka's goals in particular. What do you make of Saka's turnaround? Like they mentioned, it's not only the turnaround for England, but how he approached last season with Arsenal, taking the penalties, big moments. There was that big one against Chelsea towards the end of the season, I believe. Yeah. Was there one against United off the top of my head?
There was one against United.
Yeah.
The first one was Chelsea that I remember him taking. And it was a really crucial penalty. And I remember watching him kind of put the ball down. At that time, we didn't know who was our penalty taker. And your first, or my first feeling about that was feeling protection over him. Of all the players on the pitch, I didn't want to see him take it because I was worried what happens if he misses.
Yeah.
What's his feelings? And that's the thing that Saka's brought out in me, is that I like this guy. I look at him, I don't have children, but if I was to have a son, I'd want it to be Saka. You just feel this kind of love for the guy from the moment.
Nice character,
yeah,
humble
nice
and-
character. From the first moment you saw him, he looks. I mean, all right, I'm 51, so everyone looks young to me at the moment. But he looks like a little boy, but a nice little boy. But he's not just a nice little boy. He's a nice little boy that is an exceptional footballer. And not only does he, he steps up, but my first recollection of him playing regularly, I think, was at fullback. Is that he just fitted in. He was prepared. He wasn't, I want to play midfield. I've got to play this position. What he did, he was prepared just to fit in. Maybe not his best position, but just to help the team out. And when I look back at the Euros and his performances, I don't think things have turned around for him. I just think his career has gone from strength to strength. He missed a penalty. Anyone can miss a penalty. It's no big deal. Okay, it is part of football, but it's not the crucial part of football. So I don't see that anything's turned around
Especially for Arsenal fans, because, a lot of us are not England fans as well. So that moment, for me in particular, didn't really matter much.
No.
But you look at his Arsenal career, it's gone from strength to strength to strength.
But the same with the England career. Even back then, people started to love him. I remember the picture of him with the inflatable jumping into the pool. And then suddenly you see all these inflatables out. So even fans of other teams, you can't dislike this guy. He's not that kind of character. There's players that have been exceptional players throughout the history of the English game that have played for other teams that other fans have just had an animosity towards.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine that ever happening.
I mean,
with Saka.
even if you watch the All or Nothing documentary, and if you see, he's just a kid. We forget he's done so much in the little time he's been playing football, this level of football. You actually forget he's just a kid. When I watched that documentary, I was really taken back. I was like, he's just a kid. Like, even the questions he's asking, the topics, the stuff he talks about is, his son like my little brother. Cause, do you know what I'm saying? He's just a kid. But he just shows maturity when the time to show maturity comes. Like, everyone loves him. Like Julian was saying, his application in all he does always wins through. You can always see it. You get some young players who, you saw Cristiano Ronaldo talking the other day about young players at United. I guarantee you, if Saka was at United, they would be singing his praises, because he's just that kid who's just dedicated in doing better. Just not just in football, but just in life in general.
Yeah.
He's very grounded, very religious. Like, always talks about his parents. It's rare you see young players talk about parents, talk about influence of, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, most of the young players want to be rappers and musicians. He's just one of these, I just want to play football, love my parents, and do the best I can do. He's a very lovable guy.
And a few of what you said can go for a few of our young players. I know we're going to stick on Saka for the moment, but as soon as you was talking, especially with Ronaldo mentioning the young players at United and the mentality, it's not only Saka. Martinelli definitely falls into that camp too. And just so you guys know, we are recording this before Brazil, Serbia, and before Portugal, Ghana. So we have yet to see whether Martinelli, Jesus will get any game time, how Partey fares against Portugal. But we have just seen, Xhaka put in a good performance for Switzerland, and we are going to, delve into those players as well. But on the Saka one, it was, James coming up to the game. There was questions about whether he'd start or not, whether it's going to be him or Foden. Yeah. He starts, gets the man of the match and 2 goals.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on what you guys are just saying there, because I agree he is lovable, and I've seen the tweets, and people go, no, you just can't help but love this guy, and I agree with all that. But I also think there'll be a part of him that, and I want to phrase this right, I don't know if he'll want to be so universally loved. And what I mean by that is, I think, look at Thierry Henry, who's renowned as one of the greatest of all time, probably the greatest Premier League player of all time, and yet you'll still hear some fans go, yeah, but what did he do in finals? You almost want that little bit of, you want something that the rivals are going to hate you for. And I think over time, because he's young and he's done so well at such a young age and he's come through so much already, Saka, there is that kind of universal love. But there will be times where he's going to have to be hated for good, for good reasons, if that makes sense. Like, he's too good, or he knows how to buy a foul, or he moans to the ref too much when he's fouled. Those little edges that you sometimes need in the game. But that will all kind of feed in. Now he's just enjoying his football.
That can help push you as well. It's similar to how Messi gets knocked for the lack of first it was a lack of an international tournament. He gets Copa America over the line. Now it's a lack of the World Cup. But that kind of tells
the better he gets, he'll get more critics. He'll get more whatever, and so that will come. But it will come because he's so good and so talented. But yeah, he took his opportunity for England, scored that second goal as well. Didn't look out of place, and that's the big thing. I mean, of course, they're going to face tougher opposition as they go further through the tournament, and obviously, again, depending on when you're watching this, we are recording this well before England USA, but you're hoping, it's looking like they'll probably go through the group and have some knockout games to play. So it's going to be interesting to see how Southgate uses him when he wants to revert to a back three. Let's say we meet France at some point. I think they're in our path, depending on how things go. Is there a situation in which he goes, well, actually, if I'm playing a back three, therefore there's only kind of two behind Kane, maybe he wants a Foden in there, who could be a wide player and a 10 in one go. So we'll see how he uses him in that sense. But it's that versatility. He could be used as a left wing back as well, which Southgate's done before. So Saka is an incredible, not only talent, but just he gives managers so many options. And I think that's why as well, when you couple everything we've said, his versatility is a big thing.
And I want to kind of move away from the Foden or Saka thing, because as we talked about in a live recently, it shouldn't be a case of is it Foden or Saka starting. I think they're both good enough to start in this England team. And after his performance, Julian, Saka 2 goals, to start the tournament. At Arsenal, we're coming up to a period where contractual negotiations need to kind of get over the line. How do you think this affects those talks and the negotiations? Does it make it more difficult for Arsenal? Or do you think Saka's a Hale End boy, an Arsenal boy, and he's here to stay regardless of, demands?
Okay, I'm going to frame my answer by my attitude to Arsenal and England. And there was a discussion, I think, on the Invincibles that came out today, where Lee was asked, would you rather England win the World Cup or Arsenal win the Carabao Cup?
Carabao?
Yeah, and he chose the Carabao Cup. Now, for me, I'm not anti-England. I actually went to the final and I supported England, and I've been to quite a few England games. I enjoy England. But Arsenal is my true love. England is just a flirtation when there is no Arsenal.
And that's if you know Julian, that's a Julian answer.
It is just a flirtation. So my priority is Arsenal. And if I had a choice out of Arsenal winning one league game and England winning the World Cup, I'd take the Arsenal game. It's not because I'm anti-England. It's just Arsenal is integral to my life. So when I saw Saka score those goals, I was happy for Saka. Not because Saka's an England player, because I see Saka and I associate him with Arsenal. I see our boy, our son, our player scoring for England. Mm-hmm. But it still doesn't give me the same kind of joy as when, one of the players that I might not be as attracted to scores for Arsenal. It's just all about Arsenal for me. So does it make contractual talks harder? Well, what it does is, on the World Cup stage, it's a world stage. So what we're seeing now is players, in effect, advertising their wares to the world. And it puts them, for the player, is the World Cup good for the players? Absolutely. They can get the sponsorship deals. Something that you've mentioned a few times, I heard you recently with Bellerin, is one of the issues you had with Bellerin was he was more concerned about, Italian fashion week, this fashion week, I want to be a model, than playing for Arsenal.
Yeah.
And the more I hear you, the more I agree with these kind of things, because what it does, it's a distraction. It's another opportunity. So what will happen at the World Cup is they'll get more sponsorship deals. Now, there's only so much you can do in your life and so much focus. And the more opportunities they get given, the less focus they can give to my true love, which is Arsenal. Yeah. So yes, it's going to make contracts more difficult, because if he does well, then his contract value goes up. And here's another scenario. Arsenal, who are run as a business, can't pay or won't pay over a certain level. Now that level might be over £200,000 a week, 250, 300, 400, 500. It may well be that his agent comes back and decides the market value is $500,000 a week, which to me sounds ridiculous, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility or even probability. When you think Haaland is being paid something like 900,000, the point I'm making is that Arsenal will have a ceiling, and there's other teams in the Premier League and worldwide, such as PSG, that don't have the same ceiling that Arsenal have. And he may well decide, because at the moment we love Saka and we see Saka as a Howland boy, as one of our own, but the reality is he's a footballer and he's an individual. And individuals and footballers look after themselves as a priority. That's their primary focus. They play for the team, and in order to play for the team, they need to do well, and then their worth goes up. So what this World Cup can do is it can absolutely put Saka in the shop window of the best case scenario is it's another £50,000 on top of his salary, which again is a lot of money. But the worst case scenario is that he reaches such a level, he goes beyond, not Arsenal as a club, because I think we're one of the biggest clubs in the world,
Of course, yeah.
but Arsenal is a financial institution that can't actually afford him. So am I happy Saka's doing well?
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I'm happy for the individual, but ultimately, I'm an Arsenal fan. That is my core. If Saka goes and plays for Man City, will I feel the same way about Saka? No, it'll be the polar opposite.
Yeah, 100%.
The World Cup has this.
Wait, before you do continue,
Yeah.
Italy winning World Cup or Arsenal winning Carabao?
Arsenal winning Carabao.
I know you're with me. Nigeria winning World Cup or Arsenal winning Carabao?
Nigeria.
Trust me, I'm taking Turkey World Cup every day
I've seen
of the
Italy
week.
win the World Cup. Man.
That's fair. That's fair.
On international level, other than the African nations, the World Cup. People have to understand this. This would be the first African country to win the world. I want to be on that side of history. Arsenal will win stuff. We have won stuff, but yo,
Yeah.
No, I hear it.
And what about Premier League? Arsenal wins Premier League or Nigeria to win the World Cup?
We've won the Premier League.
Okay.
It's Nigeria winning the World Cup all the time.
Okay.
I hear that.
All the time.
You know, the World Cup has this unbelievable prestige for obvious reasons, but also it does things for players' value that actually, when you stop and think about it, don't really make much sense. Because he could be brilliant, Saka, across these group games against Iran, Wales and USA. And with the greatest respect in the world, those three teams are not better than Wolves, Southampton, Leeds. Three sides that are near the bottom of the Premier League table. But when you do it on a world stage in the World Cup, there's like a different level. Now, Martinelli is someone that I think could really explode at this World Cup if, you know, you just hear rumours and murmurs that he, you know, they're liking him and that they're thinking of starting and blah, blah. If he's to start getting significant minutes for Brazil, scores a couple of goals, whatever, the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona might start to take notice.
Value goes straight
But the
up.
reality is, that's not as impressive. Okay, maybe it's impressive to get into the Brazil team ahead of some of the players they've got. That is one thing. But it's not in terms of maybe the opposition he's doing against compared to what he's doing week in, week out in the Premier League. So there is something about the World Cup that I think it's maybe when you add the pressure, the eyes of the world, the fact that it's such a massive stage and we've seen great players not really do it on that stage before. Maybe that's why it's so valued when they do. But there is something funny about it because then you've got Saliba who didn't start in the France game. It was Konate and Upamecano. Will that maybe, I don't know, get him thinking, okay, I'm not quite, you know, there's still a way to go. I'm playing week in, week out for the league leaders in the Premier League. I'm loved, I'm happy here. Maybe this is a good place to develop a little bit more. Had he been starting week in, week out for France, maybe those calls coming from... There's such small little things that you're thinking, surely these little details don't make much of a difference. But I think they can. So it's going to be very interesting how these players are placed and where their kind of contracts are, how they're seen by us as fans come post-World Cup. Because again, if Saliba's barely kicked a ball, you're probably not as worried about it. If Martinez had a storming tournament, you start to think, we need to get this tied down.
Do you know, when I think about it, if you look at like, we've got Saka, Martinelli and Saliba, these are three young players who are currently the spine of the team.
For the future,
And of the future, even currently.
And the present.
And the present. So, is there a reason why they haven't signed the contracts? Because obviously they know the World Cup's coming. So you got to look at it from that angle. Is it I know players can love the club, players can love the team, but like Julian said, players are individual and will always prioritise themselves.
Can I give you like an actual genuine answer of what I think is? Because I think we always like to think of the almost maybe the worst case scenario, like maybe they're waiting for the World Cup to show what they can do and all that. I actually think maybe sometimes we underestimate, and I actually have this in my day-to-day life sometimes. It's like, I think they're just busy. Like they're training, they're playing 2 games a week. There's a lot going on. I know they've got agents sort this stuff out, but agents will have other clients. And I think these things are literally just said, we'll deal with it in December, or we'll do. I'm not saying that conversations aren't slowly happening and they're not progressing in some way, but I think sometimes we get so panicked about why is it not done yet? And actually it's because I'm busy doing the thing you're saying I'm good at, which is being a good footballer. So I think sometimes we do over worry, but I do get where you're coming from.
It's like when the missus thinks you're up to no good. When you're playing FIFA. You're the man playing FIFA.
I don't know if you saw Mark Goldbridge was saying that with all the added time now, he's having to explain like, no, like I promise the games are longer now. It's like, yeah, I get it because games are dragging on, but yeah.
But that's exactly what got me thinking. Seeing Saka start and thrive and star for England, and then seeing Saliba on the bench, and I thought to myself, listen, those 2 players are 2 players that we need to sign up real soon, as well as Martinelli, who we'll see in the coming hours whether he starts. But with Saliba, I'm with you. It feels like, he's not been thrust into the limelight for France. Obviously, he's been on the bench. I believe he played a friendly for them, but if he started the tournament on the bench, then I assume he'll end the tournament on the bench as well, unless there's a collapse. Yeah.
Varane to come back. Yeah.
Upamecano, Konate.
Yeah.
It's a tough. I mean, he's done well getting in there in the first place. Anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you know? Can I be honest? I think I'm more worried about the Saliba situation than I am the other 2.
Because them 2 have kind of hinted already that they're happy, they're going to sign.
Right. But if you see how Saliba's situation went when he first came to the club, Emery brought him in, then we loaned him out. That was part of the deal that he wasn't going to play that season. And then the season he's meant to come back, Mikel Arteta takes charge and sends him out on loan, which wasn't part of the deal.
Yeah.
And which would have maybe made him feel away. But hold on, are you saying I'm not good enough to play? And I know that, there's some caveats to throw in there, with some personal situations in France. Maybe that's why he went back. But I think with Saliba, if I'm Saliba, I'm asking myself, I've wanted to play last season and I did it. And I look at like the centre-backs the club had last season. We had Rob Holding,
White, Gabriel.
Mari, and I'm backing myself and thinking I can get ahead of these guys. And you said I wasn't good enough. And then I've gone and had a blinder in France.
Young Player of the Year.
I've won Young Player of the Year. You're playing in a league where Mbappe, Neymar, Messi
broke into the French squad.
And then you start to look and you think, hold on, they didn't give me no loyalty. Why have I got to give them any loyalty back? They've only wanted me back because of how exceptional I've been.
But that's what being a footballer is about. It's about being good enough. You need to be good enough and show you're good enough. And what Arteta did, he gave him the opportunity to shine, to play every week. And the reality would have been, especially at centre half, he wouldn't have got straight into the Arsenal team. Maybe there'd have been some injuries and he'd been able to force his way in. But he had a great opportunity to shine in the French league. He took that opportunity. He came back. Arteta then, you talk about loyalty. Arteta did show him some loyalty. He started him and he's kept his place. So the situation he's in at the moment is that he is pretty much, nothing's guaranteed, but as guaranteed as you can get one of the first names on the team sheet. So I think he must be relatively happy at Arsenal.
I mean, yes, in terms of, Arteta's thrown him in there, but like I said, is he looking at as, well, he's thrown me in there because of the quality I've always had, or is he just throwing me in there because of the season I've just had?
Yeah, we have to look at it from both perspectives.
Yeah, and how is he looking at it? Because if you're a player, if you're a young player, especially when we got him from St. Etienne, there were rave reviews about this is the next generational centre-back. This is the guy. So he would have come in to Arsenal with that mentality of, well, I'm the next guy, so I should be playing. Especially if you look at the centre-backs we had at that time. We had David Luiz, we had Socrates, we had Mustafi.
Stop there.
Do you know what I'm saying? So he's probably thinking, okay, I can't. If you don't believe I can squeeze past these guys, you're only believing in me because of the season I've had. That's how I would take it.
But at the same time, Arsenal gambled on Saliba when not that others wouldn't. Obviously, okay, we won the race and a few clubs were interested, but we paid 27 million for an 18-year-old who'd only had, I think, one season at that point of top flight football. So it swings and roundabouts. Like, I understand, but look at how he is now in the Qatar for the France squad for Qatar 2022. How he's playing week in, week out for a team that are top of the league in the Premier League. And he's had really great experience in Europe with Marseille. He's been able to live in the country he's from and develop there. Like, at the same time, he's had it pretty good the last 3-4 years. And whether it's by design or by accident on the Arsenal side, he can ultimately look back, take a step back and go, you know what, this has worked out really well for me. So I really hope he looks at it that way. And the one thing about Arteta, and they do in fairness to them, is they've played the long game on a lot of things. Now, again, whether Saliba was intentionally done that way or whether they were sending him out on loan to drive his price up, you don't know. But I like to believe that they managed him perfectly. They've done it with other things, like not signing a striker in January because ultimately they wanted Jesus come the summer. They also did it in the way they've approached games against the Big Six, where I'm like, why are you playing a certain way that we're not ready to play and we're losing 4-0 at Anfield? But now, with the right players, you understand what he was trying to do. So I think I'd urge these players who have got these contractual situations, and the future ones as well, and players that are signing, if they've got doubts, just look at how there have been certain decisions that might be puzzling in the short term, but actually there's been like a long-term plan that so far has been coming to fruition for the likes of Arteta.
You're right when you look in hindsight, because I was very frustrated, especially the third loan. The second
Marseille
one. The second one I understood because of what Saliba went through, the injuries as well as the off-the-field issues. I thought, you know what, Arteta's probably done the right thing. He's protecting him. He's taking him out of the limelight. A lot of people in that second loan said, look how Fofana's hit the ground running at Leicester. But my argument was, you can make mistakes for Leicester. It's not going to be glorified. It's not going to be headline news. You make mistakes for Arsenal, that can be an end of your career before it even started. And we've seen that with a Senderos, for example, early on in his Arsenal career. I'm not comparing Senderos and Saliba, but Senderos was a good defender at young days. Came up against Drogba. We never saw that Senderos again. But I want to ask you, because I know, well, you trusted the process for the whole time. James, you've pretty much trusted it for
mostly.
The
I did have a wobble. There was a clip of us actually on the supporters club, the three of us. I think Robbie was on it as well. And yeah, it was basically about the process. And I said, well, it's been too slow, but it has, as Arteta said, gone bang, I suppose, in that when you look at that Everton defeat at Goodison and then the run of form we've been since, from that point, I've just kind of been all in with it because I've understood more.
I want to ask you, Stricto, because you've been along the same lines as me, do you trust Arteta more? Well, not more, because I'd say that's a fact. Do you trust Arteta now moving forward?
Yeah.
Because the reason I asked that is because recently he mentioned Saliba and he delved on the topics you said. He said, we sent him out on loan. He probably wasn't happy with it. We had some conversations, but from what he says about the club, from how he's integrated himself in, Arteta said, and this was only last month, towards the end of October, he said, I believe he will sign his contract.
I think, the question you asked me is, do I believe in Arteta? I think if you look back at some of he's dealt with, first of all, he's dealt with difficult situations. Looking back now, and he's dealt with them actually with ease.
Yeah.
You think about the Aubameyang situation, and at the time, I think I wasn't screaming my head off saying, "No, why have you?" I think I was pretty much with him because I do think if a player gets out of line, no player is bigger than any club.
Yeah.
For starters, and I was with him and how that situation was dealt with. If you remember, it was the Tottenham game. I think it was a London derby when he dropped him.
The first time he dropped him.
Yeah. And that was a big call. Mm-hmm. And I think at that point, he gained a point from me because I was like, okay, this is a big call. This is our main striker. This is a derby. Like, you could really, really mess this up.
Yeah.
But he dealt with it. I think we got the W in that game. We won that game. And then subsequently, after that, just getting rid of him. And I think the reason why I started to trust Arteta, should I say, is I think he's getting a mentality out of the players. Not so much even the players' quality, but just this mentality. So you hear like Piers Morgan talking about get Ronaldo into the Arsenal. And I think to myself, that isn't what Arteta would like. Quality, he's got quality. Of course, Ronaldo's got quality. He's one of the best, second best player after Messi, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He's up there. He's got the quality. So his quality is not in doubt. But if he professes to love Man United the way he does, but can air out their laundry like how he's done, he won't hesitate to do that to us.
Yeah.
And it's all about Arteta getting these players to tune in with a chemistry
In line.
to get in line. And I think when I look at that, I start to trust him a bit more. Like, I start to think, all right, they're not just going out for a player with quality, but they're also going out with players with that mentality. Because I think most Premier League players have quality, right? You're playing in one of the best leagues in the world. But there has to be something that separates you from the rest.
Yeah,
and I think that is what I'm on board with. Because I'm seeing it. We talked.
Sorry, but you bang on, because over the years, something about Arsenal I've looked at and said, what the fuck is going on? Is in the dressing room, I just feel like it was nonsense. It was a lack of ambition. It just seemed like everyone was just, on a plating. Yeah. And I look at Manchester City, or I look at Real Madrid, or I look at Liverpool, and they're not all over socials. They're not all, making fools of themselves or laughing and joking. They're all very, very serious. Yes. And they have players that are heads and shoulders beyond the levels of ours at that time, especially. But they still manage to hone it in and focus and, achieve their target. So that's what we're seeing now. 100%. You're right.
That's what we're seeing. There was that leaked video of Aubameyang who was talking about Arteta can't handle big guys. Fuck off. We don't need big guys. Bro,
he handled him.
He did handle him. He got rid of it.
Like we need you to be on par with. You need to toe like it's a collective thing. And Abba's sitting there thinking, well, I'm bigger than the rest of these units. I'm a big boy. They're little boys.
Yeah.
And look what we showed him.
Yeah.
We showed him. And that is what I'm in tune with. I'm more in tune with the mentality. Like you said, in the previous years, it was all about playing on social media, especially when you're not winning games. It's easier if you're winning games and you're on socials. No one cares. But when you're losing, when you're not doing what you're supposed to do and you're still playing on socials, and I think there's that regime. But it's not a regime in the sense that it's a dictatorship. It's more a family regime. There's the dad, the mom, the older ones, and then the middle ones, and then the younger ones, and it's all going in the same direction.
Because the social media thing is very interesting. Did you guys recently see the Ramsdale Will Ferrell thing? Is that his name?
No.
The actor,
comedian,
right?
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
I need to see it because I actually like Will Ferrell.
Apologies for the language. It was on Capital FM. I think they're Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell, the anchorman.
Yeah, and he was talking. You'll recognise
Will Ferrell, 100%.
He was talking about England USA, and they said we got a message here from Aaron Ramsdale, and he said, massive fan of you, blah blah, but come England USA, you're gonna lose, something like that. And he says this weekend, he said this weekend you'll not only be like the worst actor in the world to me, but you'll be less anchorman, more wankerman. And I thought that there you go.
Oh, is that his name?
Yeah, Will Ferrell.
I've never known his name.
But that kind of thing, when it comes off the back of Ramsdale screaming at Zinchenko and that quote going, stop taking the fucking piss, when he loses the ball against Wolves, then you buy into it because it's like, I love your character, but you're serious on the pitch. Zinchenko, he's been at the club, a couple months, and he's already got his gym, him at the Emirates painting his gym.
He's saying, stop saying top four. He's saying...
But there's that. So we love seeing character. We love seeing all that stuff. We love getting to know the players. But there's a commitment that we're seeing from every single one of them on the pitch that is, and of course, when you're winning games, it changes your perception. But there's something about when you're looking away, they're interacting on the pitch and putting each other through and everything. Saliba scores an own goal, Ramsdale goes and says, come on, you got this and everything. That's pulling in the same direction. And that's why we enjoy all the side things. So I just wanted to add to that point because it is interesting how it's perceived differently.
Yeah, because you can reel off names. Not only Abba, you can add Ozil to it, you can add Guendouzi to it, you can probably look at Tavares and Willian. They come in and they go out a year later. I think, there's enough there, Arteta with big moments, big players, to say that I trust him moving forward. I do want to wrap this up now, and I want to wrap it up with a question. Let's start with James, and then we'll go to Julian. James, will Saliba, Martinelli, Saka have signed new contracts by next summer?
Yes, I do.
And I asked by next summer because I need that out the way before a massive summer with hopefully Champions League football, the money and further development. Do they sign by next summer?
Yeah, I mean, I touched on it. I think it's the mentality. I think all these guys, like I said, it's a family. They understand where they are in this family, because nothing worse than like being in a house or anywhere in life and you don't know where you stand.
Yeah.
I think these boys know exactly where they stand. And then to go somewhere else and trying to figure out where you stand again, it's not really, it's
big risk.
It's a big risk. I think they know the clubs, so they know the fans love them. They know the managers behind them. They know the clubs behind them. So it just makes sense. Of course, I would love Arsenal to give them what they want. Give them a contract.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of these young players that we've got, I think we're actually quite unique in the sense that we've got a bunch of young players with mature heads, which is very, very rare.
Yeah.
Which is very rare, and that will get us over the line in terms of their contracts.
2 yeses. Julian, are you going to wrap it up? Full house with a yes? All 3 contracts signed before the summer transfer window kicks in.
It has to be a resounding yes. They have to sign before next summer, because then, from what I understand, apart from Martinelli, who's got that extra option of a year, they're going into the last year of their contract. So you get a situation. There's one thing you said that I disagreed with, is give them what they want. Now, what they want as individuals is as much money as possible. They will want, they'll want £1 million a week if they could. Julian,
within reason.
Okay, within reason. But within reason of what they think they want and what is realistic might be too far apart. So I wouldn't say give them what they want. We want to make every effort within the realms of what we can financially do. Because the last thing I want to ever see is Arsenal go the same way as a club like Leeds did back in 20 odd years ago, where they just went for it too much, and it was irresponsible financially. And yes, they had a good few seasons. They got to the Champions League semi-final, but then they went bust, a couple of years later. So give them what they want, what they're worth, up to a certain level. But here's the thing: if what they want is not what we can give them, then even though we'll love them at the moment, we've spoke about Saka and our love for Saka, and I said, if I had a son, then I'd like it to be Saka. If I see Saka next season in a Man City shirt, I'm disowning him.
What a dad.
and that's why I'm not a father.
So what's the answer, yes or no?
The answer is yes, they have to sign, but if they don't sign, see ya.
You know what it is?
Get rid.
I agree. Yes, they have to sign. I can't 100% say all 3 will sign come next summer. The one I have doubts about is William Saliba. I hope they all sign, because coming up to a year left, all the power's in their hand and decisions have to be made by Arsenal. But with Champions League football on the horizon and the income that comes with that, I think we can flex our muscles a bit more, but within reason. Like you said, I think if I'm looking at Saka, I might bring him up to Jesus wage, considering how important he is to us. If I'm looking at Martinelli, maybe 150 a week, and Saliba, maybe 130 to 150 a week. As long as it's a 6-year contract for me, I'm happy with those figures. But we'll see if Arsenal get it done. Julian, thanks as always coming on. Stricto, thank you for coming back. And James, I'll see you on the live later, mate. This has been the Supporters Club, people. Leave us your thoughts in the comment section below. How good was Saka in that first game? Obviously, this has been recorded before Brazil, Serbia and Portugal, Ghana. I don't know when it's coming out yet, but just so you guys know. And let us know in the comments, will all 3 players sign come next summer? If not, who are you most worried about? But you know what? We keep it moving. Obviously, the World Cup period is still here. Arsenal are back in just under 4 weeks, I believe. Or is it just over? It's just over 4 weeks. So yeah, we look forward to that. But
26th of December.
Yeah, what are we now? 23rd of November now, isn't it? 22nd, 23rd? Something like that. It is what it is, people. Hit the like button. Love for the lovers always. And make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on. Peace.
Shop for AFTV merch at shop.aftv.co.uk. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat and Twitch. We've got content for every platform, so check it out.